The rain was falling hard on the night Maya Chen made the biggest mistake of her life. She was running through the dark streets of New Geneva, her worn shoes splashing through puddles, her thin jacket doing nothing to stop the cold water from soaking through to her skin. Behind her, she could hear the angry shouts of the food vendor she had stolen from. 2 small bread rolls. That was all she had taken, but in the lower districts, even small crimes could get you thrown into the labor camps. Maya was 17 years old, but she looked younger. Years of not eating enough had kept her small and thin. Her dark hair was cut short because long hair was too hard to keep clean when you lived on the streets. Her eyes, a deep brown color, were always watching, always looking for danger or opportunity. That was how you survived in the lower districts of New Geneva. The city was divided into 3 levels. The upper level was where the rich families lived, where the buildings touched the clouds and the air was clean. The middle level was for the workers, the engineers, the teachers, the people who kept the city running. And then there was the lower level, down in the shadows where the sunlight barely reached, where people like Maya scraped by on whatever they could find or steal. Tonight, Maya had made a mistake. She had been too hungry, too desperate. She had grabbed those bread rolls without checking if anyone was watching. Now she was running for her life, and she could hear the security drones starting to buzz in the distance. Once those drones locked onto you, there was no escape. She turned a corner and found herself at a dead end. But no, not quite. There was a building here, tall and dark, with a small door that was slightly open. Without thinking, Maya pushed through the door and found herself inside a dark hallway. She pressed her back against the wall and held her breath, listening as the footsteps ran past outside. The drones buzzed overhead, but they did not stop. They had lost her signal somehow. Maya waited for a long time before she allowed herself to breathe normally. She looked around the hallway. It was clean, much cleaner than anything in the lower districts. The walls were smooth metal, and there were small lights running along the floor. She had never seen a building like this before. She should leave. She knew she should leave. But the rain was still falling outside, and she was so cold, so tired. Maybe she could find a warm corner to sleep in for a few hours. Maybe there would be some food somewhere. Maya started walking down the hallway. It led to another hallway, then another. The building was like a maze, and she quickly became lost. But she kept going because she had nowhere else to go. Eventually, she came to a large room filled with beds. Each bed was neatly made with clean white sheets. There were about 50 beds in total, arranged in rows. At the end of each bed was a small locker. This must be some kind of dormitory, Maya thought. A school, maybe. But what kind of school would be in this part of the city? She was so tired. The beds looked so comfortable. Before she could stop herself, Maya had climbed into one of the empty beds at the far corner of the room. She pulled the clean white sheets over her wet clothes and closed her eyes. Just a few hours, she told herself. She would be gone before anyone woke up. Maya slept better that night than she had slept in years. She woke to the sound of a loud bell ringing. Maya's eyes flew open, and she sat up so fast that her head spun. The room was now filled with light, and all around her, young people were climbing out of their beds. They were all wearing the same uniform, a sleek black outfit with silver lines running down the sides. They were moving quickly, efficiently, like soldiers preparing for battle. Maya's heart was pounding. She needed to run. She needed to get out of here before anyone noticed her. But before she could move, a tall woman appeared at the end of her bed. The woman had silver hair pulled back in a tight bun, and her eyes were the color of steel. She was wearing a uniform similar to the students', but with more silver lines and a badge on her chest that Maya did not recognize. "You," the woman said, her voice sharp. "I do not recognize you. What is your name and designation?" Maya's mind raced. She should tell the truth. She should beg for mercy. But something stopped her. A lifetime of surviving on the streets had taught her that the truth was not always the best option. "I am Maya," she said slowly. "Maya Chen, I am new." The woman frowned. "New?" "We were not informed of any new arrivals." She pulled out a small device from her pocket and began typing on it. "There is no Maya Chen in our system. How did you get here?" Maya's stomach dropped. She was caught. There was no way out of this. She was going to be arrested, thrown into a labor camp, maybe worse. She closed her eyes and waited for the guards to come. But instead, the woman said something that surprised her. "Interesting," the woman murmured, looking at her device. "There seems to be a glitch in the system. Your file is corrupted. No matter. We will sort this out later. For now, you will follow the schedule like everyone else. The entrance examination begins in 1 hour. Maya blinked. Entrance examination? The woman gave her a cold look. Yes, the examination that determines whether you are worthy of attending the Galactic Military Academy, the most prestigious academy in the entire Human Federation. Did you forget? There was sarcasm in her voice, but also something else. Curiosity, maybe. Maya had no idea what the woman was talking about. She had never heard of the Galactic Military Academy. She did not even know that humans had expanded beyond Earth. In the lower districts, information was scarce. Most people did not even know what year it was, but Maya was smart. She had always been smart. And right now, her smart brain was telling her that this was an opportunity, a chance to escape her old life, a chance to become something more than a street thief who would probably die before she turned 20. I remember, Maya said, trying to keep her voice steady. I am ready for the examination. The woman studied her for a long moment. Then she nodded. Good. Get dressed. There is a spare uniform in the locker beside your bed. Report to the examination hall in 45 minutes. She turned and walked away without another word. Maya let out a breath she did not know she had been holding. She looked around at the other students. They were all getting dressed now, putting on their black uniforms with practiced ease. They were talking to each other in quiet voices, some looking nervous, others looking confident. None of them paid any attention to Maya. She opened the locker beside her bed and found a uniform inside, just like the woman had said. There was also a small bag containing some basic supplies, a toothbrush, a comb, a bar of soap. Simple things that Maya had not had access to in years. She took a moment to wash her face and comb her hair in the small bathroom attached to the dormitory. When she looked at herself in the mirror, she almost did not recognize the person staring back. With the uniform on and her hair neat, she almost looked like she belonged here. Almost. The examination hall was the largest room Maya had ever seen. The ceiling was so high that it disappeared into darkness. The floor was made of some kind of metal that glowed faintly under her feet. There were hundreds of students here, all wearing the same black uniform, all standing in neat rows facing a raised platform at the front of the room. On the platform stood 3 people. One was the silver-haired woman who had spoken to Maya earlier. The second was a man with dark skin and a serious expression, his uniform covered in medals. The third was someone Maya could not quite figure out. They had pale skin that seemed to shimmer slightly, and their eyes were a strange purple color. Not human, Maya realized with a shock. An alien. She had heard rumors that humans had made contact with other species out in space, but she had never believed them. Aliens were the stuff of stories, of myths, but now one was standing right in front of her, and Maya had to force herself not to stare. The man with the medals stepped forward. Welcome, he said, his voice booming across the hall. Welcome to the entrance examination of the Galactic Military Academy. I am Admiral Jackson, head of this institution. Beside me are Commander Sterling and Advisor Zex from the Valthori Collective. The alien, Zix, nodded their head slightly in greeting. Admiral Jackson continued. Today, you will be tested in 3 areas: physical ability, tactical thinking, and mental resilience. Only those who pass all 3 tests will be admitted to the academy. The rest will be sent home. He paused, letting his words sink in. The tests will be difficult. They are designed to push you to your limits and beyond. But remember, difficulty is not an obstacle. It is an opportunity to prove your worth. Good luck. Maya felt her heart beating faster. She had no training, no preparation. She did not even know what kind of tests they would be facing. But she had something that many of these other students probably did not have. She had spent her entire life fighting to survive. Every day in the lower districts was a test. Every meal she found, every night she survived, was a victory against impossible odds. Maybe that would be enough. Or maybe she would fail and be thrown out. Either way, she had nothing to lose. The first test was physical. The students were led to a large arena where they had to complete an obstacle course. There were walls to climb, pits to jump over, beams to balance on, and targets to hit with practice weapons. The course was designed to test speed, strength, and coordination. Maya watched as the first few students attempted the course. Some did well, moving through the obstacles with grace and skill. Others struggled, falling from the beams or missing the targets. When it was her turn, Maya took a deep breath and stepped forward. She was small, but that was an advantage here. She slipped through the narrow passages easily. She was fast, her years of running from security patrols giving her speed that surprised even her. The climbing wall was difficult, but she had climbed many walls in her life, escaping from danger or searching for food. She made it to the top faster than most. The targets were harder. She had never used a weapon before, at least not one like the practice rifles they gave her. But Maya was observant. She had watched the other students carefully, noting how they held the weapons, how they aimed. She copied their movements as best she could, and although her shots were not perfect, they were good enough to pass. When she finished the course, Maya was breathing hard, her muscles aching, but she had made it. She had passed the first test. The second test was tactical thinking. The students were placed in a simulation, a virtual reality environment where they had to solve a military problem. Maya found herself standing on a virtual battlefield, surrounded by virtual soldiers who looked to her for commands. "You are under attack," a voice announced. "Enemy forces are approaching from the north. You have limited resources. Your mission is to protect the civilian population. You have 15 minutes. Begin." Maya had no idea what she was doing. She had never commanded anyone in her life. She had never even seen a real battle. But she had seen plenty of fights in the lower districts. She knew how gangs operated, how they attacked, how they defended their territory. She looked at the battlefield and saw patterns. The enemy was coming from the north, but there was high ground to the east. If she could get some of her soldiers there, they could attack from above. There was also a narrow passage to the west that could be used to flank the enemy. Maya started giving orders. She spoke quickly and clearly, sending soldiers to different positions, setting up defenses, preparing for the attack. She made mistakes, of course. She forgot about one entrance and had to scramble to cover it. She misjudged the timing and almost lost a group of soldiers to enemy fire, but she adapted. She changed her plans on the fly, responding to the changing situation. And when the 15 minutes were up, the civilian population was safe. The enemy had been driven back. "Tactical test complete," the voice announced. "Result: pass." Maya allowed herself a small smile. 2 tests down, 1 to go. The third test was mental resilience. Maya was led into a small, dark room and told to sit in a chair in the center. She heard a door close behind her, and then she was alone in the darkness. At first, nothing happened. Maya sat in the silence, waiting. Then the voices started. They were quiet at first, barely more than whispers, but slowly they grew louder. They spoke of her fears, her doubts, her failures. They told her she did not belong here. They told her she was nothing but a street thief, a criminal, a worthless piece of trash from the lower districts. They told her she would never amount to anything. Maya closed her eyes and tried to block out the voices. But they kept coming, relentless, pounding against her mind like waves against a shore. Then the images started. She saw her past, the worst moments of her life. She saw herself as a small child, cold and hungry, crying for parents who would never come. She saw herself stealing, lying, doing whatever it took to survive. She saw every person she had ever hurt, every wrong she had ever done. The darkness pressed in on her, and Maya felt like she was drowning. She wanted to scream, to run, to give up. But she did not, because Maya had lived through worse than this. She had faced real hunger, real cold, real danger. These were just images, just voices. They were not real. They could not hurt her. She took a deep breath and focused on that truth. The voices tried to tell her she was worthless, but Maya knew better. She had survived when so many others had not. She had made it this far, against all odds. That was not worthless. That was strength. The voices began to fade. The images dissolved. And slowly, light returned to the room. "Mental resilience test complete," a voice announced. "Result: pass." Maya opened her eyes and found herself back in the examination hall. She was standing with a group of other students, the ones who had passed all 3 tests. There were fewer of them now, maybe half of the original number. Admiral Jackson was standing on the platform again, looking down at them with something that might have been respect. "Congratulations," he said. "You have proven yourselves worthy of attending the Galactic Military Academy. From this day forward, you are cadets. Your training begins tomorrow." He paused. "Welcome to your new life." Maya looked around at the other cadets. They were smiling, celebrating, hugging each other. They had no idea that one of them did not belong here, that one of them was a fraud, but Maya was here now. She had passed the tests. She had earned her place. Even if she had gotten here by accident, tomorrow, her training would begin. Tomorrow, she would start becoming something more than a street thief. Tomorrow, everything would change, and as Maya stood there in that great hall, surrounded by people who had no idea who she really was, she made herself a promise. She would not waste this chance. She would work harder than anyone else. She would learn everything they could teach her, and she would prove that she deserved to be here, no matter how she had arrived. The mistake that had brought her to this place might just turn out to be the best thing that had ever happened to her, or it might destroy her completely. Only time would tell. 3 months passed at the Galactic Military Academy, and Maya Chen was still there. Every day she woke up expecting someone to discover her secret. Every day she waited for the guards to come and drag her away. But it never happened. The corrupted file in the system was never fixed, and no one questioned her presence after that first morning. Maya used this borrowed time well. She threw herself into her training with a dedication that surprised even herself. While other cadets complained about the early morning exercises, Maya was grateful for every moment. While others struggled with the strict discipline, Maya found it almost easy. After all, discipline was nothing compared to starvation. Hard work was nothing compared to freezing to death on the streets. The academy was unlike anything Maya had ever experienced. The facilities were incredible. There were training rooms that could simulate any environment, from frozen wastelands to scorching deserts. There were classrooms equipped with holographic displays that could show the entire galaxy in perfect detail. There were libraries filled with more knowledge than Maya had known existed. And then there was the food. Real food. 3 meals a day, every day, without fail. Maya ate every bite she was given, and sometimes had to stop herself from crying at the simple luxury of a full stomach. But the greatest resource at the academy was the teaching. Maya learned things that blew her mind wide open. She learned that humanity had spread across hundreds of planets, forming the Human Federation. She learned that they had made contact with dozens of alien species, some friendly, some hostile. She learned about the wars that had been fought, the treaties that had been signed, the delicate balance of power that kept the galaxy from descending into chaos. She learned about starships, how they worked, how they were commanded. She learned about weapons that could destroy entire cities, and shields that could protect against them. She learned about strategy and tactics, about leadership and sacrifice. Every day brought new knowledge, and Maya absorbed it all like a sponge. Her instructors began to notice her. At first, they paid her little attention. She was just another cadet, small and quiet, nothing special. But as the weeks went by, Maya's performance started to stand out. In the combat simulations, Maya consistently ranked among the top of her class. Her tactics were unconventional, unexpected, but effective. She did not think like the other cadets, who had been raised on military theory and proper protocol. Maya thought like a survivor. She looked for weaknesses, exploited opportunities, and never fought fair when she could fight smart. Commander Sterling, the silver-haired woman who had confronted Maya on that first morning, was the one who noticed first. She called Maya into her office one afternoon, a small room filled with awards and commendations from a long military career. "Sit down, Cadet Chen," Commander Sterling said, gesturing to a chair across from her desk. Maya sat, her back straight, her hands folded in her lap. She had learned to hide her nervousness well. "Yes, Commander." Sterling studied her for a long moment, those steel-gray eyes seeing more than Maya was comfortable with. "Your performance in the tactical simulations has been remarkable," she said finally. "Your scores are among the highest we have ever recorded for a first-year cadet." Maya's heart beat faster, but she kept her face calm. "Thank you, Commander." "Where did you learn to think like that?" Sterling asked. "Your file does not mention any prior military training. No academy preparation courses, no family connection to the armed forces. This was dangerous territory." Maya chose her words carefully. "I grew up in difficult circumstances, Commander. I learned to think on my feet, to adapt quickly, to find solutions when there seemed to be none." Sterling's eyes narrowed slightly. "The lower districts, perhaps?" Maya felt her blood run cold. Did Sterling know? Had she figured out the truth? But the commander did not press further. Instead, she leaned back in her chair and said something that surprised Maya completely. "Whatever your background, Cadet Chen, you have talent, raw, unrefined, but undeniable. I will be watching your progress with great interest. She paused. You are dismissed. Maya stood and saluted, then walked out of the office as calmly as she could manage. Her hands were shaking slightly when she reached the hallway. She had dodged a bullet, but she knew the questions would keep coming. The better she performed, the more attention she would attract. And the more attention she attracted, the greater the chance that someone would discover she did not belong here. But Maya could not stop herself from performing well. It was not in her nature to hold back, to deliberately fail. She had spent too many years fighting for survival to suddenly learn how to lose. Besides, a part of her was beginning to believe that maybe she did belong here. Maybe her hard life had prepared her for exactly this. Maybe the skills she had developed on the streets were the same skills that made a great military leader. Or maybe she was fooling herself. Maybe she would be found out tomorrow and everything would come crashing down. Either way, Maya had decided to make the most of every day she had. The other cadets were a mixed group. Some came from military families, their parents and grandparents having served in the fleet. Others came from wealthy backgrounds, their families buying them the best preparation courses and tutors. A few, like Maya supposedly, came from scholarship programs designed to find talented young people from less privileged backgrounds. Maya made a few friends, though she was careful not to get too close to anyone. There was Jin, a tall young man from the mining colonies, quiet and steady, with a gift for engineering. There was Priya, a sharp-tongued girl from Earth who had aced every academic test, but struggled with the physical training. And there was Alexander, called Alec by everyone, a charming young man from one of the wealthy families who seemed to coast through everything without trying. But there were also enemies. The cadets were competitive, and Maya's rapid rise through the rankings made her a target for jealousy. The worst was a young woman named Victoria Crane, whose family had produced admirals for 3 generations. Victoria had expected to be at the top of the class, and she did not appreciate being beaten by an unknown girl from nowhere. Who are you really? Victoria asked one day, cornering Maya in the training room after a simulation. Victoria had placed 3rd in the exercise. Maya had placed 1st. I am just a cadet, same as you, Maya said, trying to step around her. Victoria blocked her path. No, you are not. I had my father look into your records. They are almost empty. No family history, no educational background, nothing. It is like you appeared out of thin air. Maya's heart was pounding, but she kept her voice steady. Maybe your father should mind his own business. Victoria's eyes flashed with anger. Watch yourself, Chen. I do not know what your secret is, but I will find out. And when I do, I will make sure everyone knows that you are a fraud. She walked away, leaving Maya standing alone in the training room. The threat hung over Maya like a dark cloud for days. She knew Victoria was serious. The Crane family had connections, resources. If they dug deep enough, they might find the truth. But there was nothing Maya could do about it except keep going, keep training, keep learning, keep proving herself. If she was going to fall, she would fall fighting. The academy held competitions every few months, events where cadets could prove their skills against each other. The biggest was the War Games, a massive simulation that pitted teams of cadets against each other in a mock battle. Maya's team was chosen randomly, a mix of cadets from different backgrounds and skill levels. She was not the team leader. That role went to a serious-minded young man named Marcus who came from a military family. But when the War Games began, things quickly fell apart. The simulation placed them on a jungle planet, tasked with defending a resource facility against an attacking force. Marcus had a plan, a good plan based on standard military doctrine, but the opposing team, led by Victoria Crane, had clearly studied Marcus's tactics. They anticipated his moves and countered them perfectly. Within the first hour, Marcus's plan was in ruins. Half their team was eliminated. The survivors were scattered and demoralized. Maya watched the disaster unfold from her position in the jungle. She had been assigned to guard a secondary entrance, a minor role that kept her out of the main action. But now, with the team falling apart, she saw an opportunity. Marcus, she said through the communication system, we need to change tactics. I am aware of the situation, Chen. Marcus replied, his voice tight with stress. I am working on it. Let me help. I have an idea. There was a long pause. Then Marcus said, Fine. What is your idea? Maya explained quickly. Instead of defending the facility directly, they would abandon it. They would let Victoria's team think they had won. And while the enemy was celebrating their victory, Maya and the survivors would loop around through the jungle and attack from behind, capturing Victoria's own base. That is insane, Marcus said. We would be giving up our objective. Our objective is to win, Maya replied, not to hold one building. If we capture their base, we win. Does it matter how we do it? There was another pause. Maya could almost hear Marcus wrestling with his pride. But finally he said, All right, Chen, we will try it your way. Take command of the survivors and execute your plan. Maya did not hesitate. She gathered the remaining cadets and led them through the jungle, moving fast and quiet. They avoided the main paths, used the terrain for cover, and reached the enemy base just as Victoria's team was celebrating their capture of the resource facility. The attack was swift and brutal. Victoria's team had left only a skeleton crew to defend their base, expecting the game to be over. They were not prepared for Maya's assault. Within 15 minutes, the base was captured. Victory to Team Blue, the simulation announced. Maya stood in the center of the captured base, breathing hard, her virtual weapon still in her hands. Around her, her teammates were cheering. Even Marcus, his pride wounded but his competitive spirit satisfied, gave her a nod of respect. But across the battlefield, in the conquered resource facility, Victoria Crane stood in silent fury. She had been outplayed, outthought, beaten by the girl she had dismissed as a fraud, and the look in her eyes told Maya that this was not over. After the war games, Maya's reputation at the academy changed completely. She was no longer just another cadet. She was the one who had turned an impossible situation into a victory, the one who thought differently, who saw angles that others missed. Admiral Jackson himself called her in for a meeting. His office was at the top of the academy's main tower, with windows that looked out over the entire complex. The admiral was an imposing figure, his dark skin lined with age and experience, his uniform heavy with medals from a lifetime of service. Cadet Chen, he said, gesturing for her to sit. I have been reviewing your performance over the past 3 months. It is impressive. Thank you, Admiral, Maya said. Your tactical thinking in particular is exceptional. Jackson leaned forward, his eyes intense. Where did you learn to think like that? Your official records are surprisingly thin. There it was again. The question that could destroy everything. Maya met his eyes directly. I learned from necessity, Admiral. I grew up in circumstances where thinking quickly and creatively was the only way to survive. Jackson studied her for a long moment. The lower districts, he said. It was not a question. Maya did not confirm or deny. I have served in the fleet for 40 years, Jackson continued. I have seen all kinds of officers come and go. Those from the best families, the best academies, the best backgrounds. And do you know what I have learned? Background means nothing. Results mean everything. He paused. I do not care where you came from, Cadet Chen. I care about where you are going. Maya felt a weight lift from her shoulders. Thank you, Admiral. Do not thank me yet, Jackson said, a hint of a smile on his weathered face. I am moving you to the advanced tactical track. The training will be harder, the expectations higher. You will be pushed to your absolute limits. He leaned back in his chair. I hope you are ready. Maya stood and saluted. I am ready, Admiral. As she walked out of his office, Maya felt something she had not felt in a long time. Hope. Real hope. Not just for survival, but for a future. A future she was building with her own hands. But that hope was about to be tested in ways Maya could not have imagined. 2 weeks after her meeting with Admiral Jackson, Maya was in the library, studying advanced battle tactics. It was late at night, and the library was almost empty. She had found a quiet corner where she could work without interruption. She did not hear Victoria Crane approaching until it was too late. I found you out, Victoria said, her voice soft but triumphant. She sat down across from Maya, a tablet in her hands. Maya's blood turned to ice, but she kept her expression neutral. What are you talking about? I had my family's investigators dig deeper into your background, much deeper than the Academy's records. Victoria smiled, but there was no warmth in it. They found something interesting, or rather, they found nothing. No Maya Chen exists in any official database. No birth certificate, no identification records, no education history, nothing at all. Maya said nothing. Her mind was racing, looking for a way out, but finding none. But that is not the most interesting part, Victoria continued. The interesting part is what happened the night before the entrance examination. There was a security alert in the lower districts of New Geneva, a food thief, running from authorities. The trail led to this building, to a door that was supposed to be locked, but was somehow left open. She paused, letting the words sink in. A door that leads directly to the cadet dormitory. Maya felt the world narrowing around her. This was it. The moment she had been dreading for 3 months. I do not know exactly how you did it, Victoria said. How you fooled the entrance examination, how you passed the tests without any training, but I know that you are not supposed to be here. You are a fraud, a criminal, a thief who snuck in by mistake and has been pretending to be a cadet ever since. Maya finally found her voice. What do you want? What do I want? Victoria laughed softly. I want what I deserve. I want to be at the top of this class. Where I belong. I want you gone. She stood up, the tablet still in her hands. Tomorrow morning, I will present this evidence to Admiral Jackson. By tomorrow afternoon, you will be expelled and arrested. Your little adventure will be over. She turned to walk away, but Maya's voice stopped her. Wait. Victoria paused, looking back with raised eyebrows. If you do this, Maya said slowly, you will prove nothing except that you could not beat me fairly. Everyone will know that you needed your family's investigators to get rid of your competition. Is that really the legacy you want? Something flickered in Victoria's eyes. Pride, maybe. Or doubt. I beat you in the war games, Maya continued. Not because of where I came from, but because of what I am. If you get rid of me like this, you will never know if you could have beaten me yourself. You will always wonder. Victoria stood frozen for a long moment. The library was silent around them, the only sound the soft hum of the environmental systems. What are you proposing? Victoria asked finally. Maya stood up, facing her rival directly. Give me until the final examinations at the end of the year. If you beat me in the finals, you can reveal everything. I will accept whatever punishment comes, but if I beat you, you destroy that evidence and never speak of this again. It was a desperate gamble. The final examinations were still 6 months away, and Maya had no guarantee she could win. But it was the only chance she had. Victoria considered the proposal. Maya could see the calculation happening behind her eyes. The desire for revenge warring with the desire to prove herself. Fine, Victoria said at last. 6 months. But when I beat you, and I will beat you, I am going to enjoy watching you fall. She walked away without another word. Maya sank back into her chair, her whole body shaking. She had bought herself time, but nothing more. 6 months to prepare for the most important competition of her life. 6 months before everything she had built came crashing down. Or 6 months to prove, once and for all, that she truly belonged here. Maya took a deep breath and looked down at the tactical manual she had been studying. She had work to do. The next 6 months were the hardest of Maya's life, and considering what her life had been before, that was saying something. She pushed herself to the absolute limit, training from before dawn until long after sunset. She studied until her eyes ached, practiced until her muscles screamed, thought until her brain felt like it would burst. The advanced tactical track was everything Admiral Jackson had promised. The simulations were more complex, the problems more difficult, the expectations impossibly high. But Maya met them all. She learned to command fleets of virtual starships, to coordinate armies across multiple planets, to see patterns in chaos and find order in confusion. Her instructors pushed her harder, seeing her potential and demanding more. Commander Sterling in particular seemed determined to break her. But Maya refused to break. Every time she was knocked down, she got back up. Every failure was a lesson. Every setback was a motivation. And slowly, she began to understand something important. She was not just surviving here anymore. She was thriving. The skills she had developed on the streets, the instincts she had honed in the lower districts. These were not weaknesses to be hidden. They were strengths to be embraced. She thought differently than the other cadets because she had lived differently. She saw solutions they missed because she had faced problems they could not imagine. Her unconventional background was not a liability. It was an asset. Maya Chen, the street thief who had snuck into the academy by mistake, was becoming something more. She was becoming the prodigy that the academy had not known it needed, and in 6 months, she would prove it to everyone, or she would lose everything she had gained. The countdown to the final examinations had begun. The day of the final examinations arrived with a storm. Lightning cracked across the sky above the Galactic Military Academy, and thunder shook the massive stone walls. Maya stood at the window of her dormitory room, watching the rain fall. In a few hours, everything would be decided. She had not slept the night before, not because of nerves, but because she wanted to be awake, to feel every moment of this last day as a cadet. Tomorrow, she would either be celebrated as one of the Academy's top graduates, or she would be exposed as a fraud and dragged away in chains. There was a strange peace in that certainty. For 9 months, Maya had lived with the constant fear of discovery. Now, one way or another, that fear would end. She put on her uniform one last time, making sure every line was perfect. Then, she walked out to meet her destiny. The final examinations at the Galactic Military Academy were legendary throughout the Human Federation. They were not simply tests of knowledge or skill. They were trials designed to push cadets to the absolute edge of their abilities, to reveal who they truly were when everything was on the line. The examinations took place over 3 days. The first day tested individual combat skills, the second tested academic knowledge, and the third was the grand scenario, a massive tactical simulation that served as the ultimate test of leadership ability. Maya excelled in individual combat. Her small size and quick reflexes gave her an advantage in the close quarters fighting tests. She moved through opponents like water, never where they expected her to be, always striking from angles they did not anticipate. She finished the combat tests in second place overall, just behind a massive young man from the outer colonies, who was simply too strong for anyone to beat in direct combat. Victoria Crane finished 5th. The academic tests were harder for Maya. Despite 9 months of intense study, she did not have the educational foundation that most cadets had developed over years of schooling. She struggled with some of the theoretical questions, the complex mathematics of hyperspace navigation, the detailed history of intergalactic diplomacy, but Maya had a gift for practical application. When the tests asked how to solve real problems, when they presented scenarios that required creative thinking rather than memorized formulas, she shone. She found ways around problems she could not solve directly. She made connections between concepts that surprised even her instructors. She finished the academic tests in 4th place overall. Victoria Crane finished 3rd. The scores were close, too close. Going into the final day, either of them could still win. The grand scenario was held in the Academy's most advanced simulation chamber, a massive dome that could recreate any environment with perfect accuracy. This year's scenario was a classic defense problem. A human colony was under attack by hostile alien forces. The cadet in command had to protect the civilian population while managing limited resources and an enemy that outnumbered them significantly. Each cadet would run the same scenario. Their performance would be scored on multiple factors: civilian casualties, resource management, tactical decision-making, leadership under pressure. The cadet with the highest overall score would be named the top graduate of the class. Victoria ran the scenario first. Maya watched from the observation room above, studying every decision her rival made. Victoria was good. There was no denying that. She had inherited her family's tactical instincts, and she had honed them over years of training. She organized her defenses efficiently, positioned her forces intelligently, and managed her resources carefully. When the alien attack came, she met it with a solid, well-planned defense. But Maya saw the flaws. Victoria was too cautious, too rigid. She followed the standard doctrine perfectly, but she did not adapt when the situation changed. When the aliens launched a surprise attack from an unexpected direction, Victoria took too long to respond. When her original plan started to fail, she hesitated before changing it. By the end of the simulation, Victoria had saved 73% of the civilian population. It was a good score, a very good score. Most cadets would struggle to reach 60%, but Maya knew she could do better. When her turn came, Maya walked into the simulation chamber with a calm she did not entirely feel. The doors closed behind her, and suddenly she was standing on the surface of a terraformed planet, a small colony stretching out before her. In the distance, she could see the dark shapes of alien warships descending through the atmosphere. The simulation began. Maya did not waste time setting up the standard defenses. Instead, she did something unexpected. She ordered an immediate evacuation of the outer settlements, pulling all civilians back to the central colony complex. This went against standard doctrine, which emphasized defending every position for as long as possible. Her instructors in the observation room murmured in surprise. Commander Sterling frowned. Admiral Jackson leaned forward, watching intently. With the outer settlements evacuated, Maya concentrated her forces in a tight perimeter around the central complex. She knew she did not have enough troops to defend the entire colony, so she did not try. Instead, she created a fortress, layered defenses that would be almost impossible to break. Then she did something even more unexpected. She sent a small team of her best soldiers on a dangerous mission behind enemy lines. The alien forces attacked in waves, throwing themselves against Maya's defenses. The fighting was brutal. Maya lost soldiers. She lost ground. At one point, it looked like the defenses would collapse entirely. But Maya held firm. She moved her remaining forces with precision, plugging gaps before they became breaches, reinforcing weak points before they broke. And all the while, her secret team was moving through the chaos, getting closer to their objective, the alien command ship. Maya had studied the alien tactics carefully during the simulation briefing. She had noticed that the alien forces seemed to lose coordination whenever they were too far from their command ship. It was a weakness, small and easily overlooked. But Maya had not overlooked it. Her team reached the command ship just as Maya's defenses were about to fail. They did not try to destroy it. They did not have the firepower for that. Instead, they attached jamming devices to the ship's communication arrays, cutting it off from the rest of the fleet. The effect was immediate. The coordinated alien attack became a chaotic mess. Units stopped working together. Some continued their assault. Others retreated in confusion. Maya seized the opportunity, launching a counterattack that drove the aliens back from the colony's walls. The simulation ended with the alien forces in full retreat. Maya had saved 91% of the civilian population. It was the highest score in the history of the final examinations. The observation room was silent when Maya emerged from the simulation chamber. Then, slowly, the other cadets began to applaud. Even some of the instructors were clapping. Admiral Jackson was smiling, a rare expression on his weathered face, but not everyone was happy. Victoria Crane stood at the back of the room, her face white with shock and fury. She had been beaten, decisively, undeniably beaten. Maya met her eyes across the room. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Victoria turned and walked away. The graduation ceremony was held 1 week later. Maya stood with her fellow cadets in the Great Hall where she had first taken the entrance examinations. Almost a year ago now, she was wearing the formal uniform of a graduated cadet, black with silver lines, the symbol of the Galactic Military Academy on her chest. Admiral Jackson stood on the raised platform, giving a speech about duty, honor, and the challenges that awaited them in the fleet. Maya barely heard the words. Her mind was elsewhere, thinking about how far she had come. A year ago, she had been a street thief, running through the rain, stealing bread to survive. Now she was graduating from the most prestigious military academy in the Human Federation, ranked first in her class. It seemed impossible. It felt like a dream. When the Admiral called her name to receive her commission, Maya walked to the platform on legs that felt like they belonged to someone else. She accepted the certificate, the rank insignia of an ensign, and saluted her commanding officer. "Ensign Maya Chen," Admiral Jackson said, his voice carrying across the Great Hall. "Top graduate, class of 2,487. You have shown exceptional talent, extraordinary courage, and remarkable adaptability. The fleet is fortunate to have you." Maya's voice was steady when she replied, "Thank you, Admiral. I will do my best to be worthy of this honor." Jackson smiled slightly. "I have no doubt that you will." As Maya walked back to her place among the graduates, she passed Victoria Crane. Their eyes met briefly. Victoria's expression was unreadable, but she did not speak. She did not reveal Maya's secret. Whatever else Victoria was, she was a woman of her word. Maya had won their competition, and Victoria had accepted the result. After the ceremony, there was a reception. Family members had been invited to celebrate with the graduates. Maya stood alone by one of the windows, watching the other cadets embrace their parents, their siblings, their loved ones. She had no one to embrace. Her family, if she had ever had one, was lost to the streets of the lower districts. But she was not sad. She was grateful. Grateful for the chance she had been given, even if it had been a mistake. Grateful for the people who had believed in her, even when she was just an unknown girl with a corrupted file. Grateful for every day of the past year, every lesson, every challenge, every victory. "Ensign Chen." Maya turned to find Commander Sterling standing beside her. The silver-haired woman was looking at her with an expression that was almost warm. "Commander, I wanted to congratulate you personally," Sterling said. "Your performance in the final examinations was truly exceptional." "Thank you, Commander," Sterling was quiet for a moment. Then she said, I knew, you know. Maya's heart stopped. Knew what? That you did not belong here. That first morning, when I found you in the dormitory, I knew something was wrong. The corrupted file was suspicious. Your lack of background knowledge was obvious. You were clearly not a prepared candidate. Maya did not know what to say. She simply waited. I could have reported you immediately, Sterling continued. Had you removed and arrested? But I did not. Do you know why? Maya shook her head. Because I saw something in you that morning. Something in your eyes. A hunger. A determination. A refusal to accept defeat. I recognized it because I saw it in myself, many years ago. Sterling paused. I grew up in the outer colonies, in conditions that were not much better than your lower districts. I know what it is like to fight for every opportunity, to have nothing given to you, to earn everything through sheer will. Maya felt tears forming in her eyes, but she blinked them back. I decided to give you a chance, Sterling said, to see if that fire I saw in you was real, and you proved that it was. Over and over again. You proved that you belonged here, not because of your background, but because of who you are. Thank you, Commander, Maya managed to say, for believing in me. Sterling nodded. The fleet needs more officers like you, Ensign Chen. Officers who think differently, who see possibilities that others miss, who never give up no matter the odds. I expect great things from you. She turned and walked away, leaving Maya alone by the window. But Maya did not feel alone anymore. She felt, for the first time in her life, like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. Maya's first assignment was to the battleship Resolute, one of the fleet's newest and most advanced vessels. She reported for duty 3 weeks after graduation, standing at attention in the captain's ready room while Captain Sarah Okonkwo reviewed her file. Captain Okonkwo was a legend in the fleet. She had led the defense of the Helios system against a massive alien incursion, saving millions of lives through brilliant tactical thinking. She was exactly the kind of officer Maya aspired to become. Ensign Chen, the captain said, looking up from the file. Top graduate of the academy. Impressive tactical scores. Very impressive. Thank you, Captain. I do not put much stock in academy records. Okonkwo continued. The real Navy is different from the simulations. How do you feel about being thrown into deep water? Maya thought of the streets of New Geneva, of cold nights and empty stomachs and the constant fight to survive. I am used to it, Captain. Okonkwo smiled slightly. Good. Report to the tactical station on the bridge. We ship out in 2 hours. Maya found her place on the bridge of the Resolute and tried to control her excitement. Through the view screen, she could see the stars stretching out into infinity. Somewhere out there were worlds she had never imagined, challenges she could not yet fathom, a future waiting to be shaped. The Resolute was heading for the frontier, to a region of space where human colonies were under threat from a new alien species. It was dangerous work, but Maya was not afraid. She had faced danger all her life. At least now, she would face it for a purpose. 3 months into her assignment, Maya got her first taste of real combat. The Resolute was on patrol near a small colony world when the distress signal came in. An alien fleet had appeared in the system, moving toward the colony with hostile intent. The Resolute was the only ship in range to respond. Captain Okonkwo ordered the ship to maximum speed, but they both knew they would not arrive in time to prevent the attack. The only question was how much damage the aliens would do before help arrived. Maya was at her station on the bridge, monitoring tactical displays and running calculations. Her mind was racing, looking for options, solutions, anything that might help, and then she saw it. Captain, she said, her voice cutting through the tense atmosphere of the bridge. I have an idea. Okonkwo looked at her sharply. Speak. The alien fleet has to pass through this region. Maya pointed to a display. To reach the colony, if we drop out of hyperspace early and position ourselves here, we can create a sensor ghost that makes it look like there is a much larger fleet waiting for them. The bridge crew exchanged skeptical looks. It was a classic bluff, one that rarely worked against sophisticated enemies. It will not fool them for long, Maya continued, anticipating the objection. But it might slow them down, make them cautious, give the colony time to evacuate and give us time to reach them. Okonkwo studied the display for a long moment, then she nodded. Do it. Maya went to work, coordinating with the ship's sensor officers to create the most convincing illusion possible. They dropped out of hyperspace at exactly the right position, broadcasting signals that made the Resolute appear to be 3 separate battleships. The alien fleet saw the signals, and they hesitated. For 6 precious hours, the aliens held their position, scanning the fake fleet and trying to determine if it was real. During those 6 hours, the colony evacuated 90% of its civilian population. And during those 6 hours, the Resolute arrived in range. When the aliens finally realized they had been tricked, it was too late. The Resolute was between them and the colony, and 2 more human ships had arrived as reinforcements. The alien fleet retreated without firing a shot. Captain Okonkwo congratulated Maya in front of the entire bridge crew. "You just saved thousands of lives with nothing but clever thinking and a few sensor tricks. That is exactly the kind of unconventional approach the fleet needs." Maya felt a warmth spread through her chest. "I was just doing my job, Captain." "No," Okonkwo said. "You were going beyond your job. That is the difference between a good officer and a great one." Maya's reputation grew over the following years. She served on multiple ships, always distinguishing herself with her unconventional tactics and her ability to see solutions that others missed. She was promoted to lieutenant, then lieutenant commander. She commanded away teams, led diplomatic missions, fought in battles that would be studied at the academy for generations. Through it all, she never forgot where she came from. She volunteered for programs that recruited promising young people from disadvantaged backgrounds. She mentored cadets who reminded her of herself. She made sure that other talented individuals who might otherwise be overlooked got the chances they deserved. 10 years after she graduated from the academy, Maya was promoted to captain and given command of her own ship. The ceremony was held at the same academy where her journey had begun, in the same great hall where she had taken her entrance examinations. Admiral Jackson, now retired but still respected throughout the fleet, was there to present her with her captain's insignia. "Captain Maya Chen," he said, his voice showing his age but still carrying authority. "When you first came to this academy, you were an unknown quantity, a mystery, a question mark in the system." He smiled. "I think it is fair to say that you have answered whatever questions anyone might have had." The audience laughed and applauded. "You have proven that talent can come from anywhere," Jackson continued. "That what matters is not where you start, but where you choose to go. You are an inspiration to every young person who believes that their circumstances define their destiny. They look at you, and they see proof that they are wrong." Maya accepted the insignia and faced the audience. She saw Commander Sterling, now an admiral herself, watching with pride. She saw Jin, Priya, and Alec, her friends from the academy, now officers in their own right. She saw cadets in the audience, young faces full of hope and determination, and she saw something else. In the back of the hall, standing alone, was Victoria Crane. They had not spoken since graduation, their paths diverging into different parts of the fleet, but Victoria had come to see this moment, and when their eyes met, Victoria gave a small nod of acknowledgement. Maya nodded back. The rivalry between them had ended long ago, transformed into something more like respect. "Thank you, Admiral," Maya said, turning back to the audience. "I came to this academy by accident. A mistake. I was running from security patrols in the lower districts of New Geneva, and I stumbled through a door that should have been locked. I had no right to be here. No training, no background, no qualifications." The audience was silent, listening, but the academy gave me a chance, Maya continued. "This institution, and the people in it, saw something in me that I did not even see in myself. They pushed me, challenged me, believed in me, and through that belief, I became something more than I ever thought possible." She paused, looking out at the sea of faces. "I tell you this not because I am proud of how I got here. I am not proud of being a thief, but I am proud of what I have become. And I want everyone listening to understand something important. Your beginning does not determine your ending. Where you start is not where you have to stay. If a street thief from the lower districts can become a captain in the galactic fleet, then anything is possible. For anyone." Maya raised her head high. "I have been given a great honor today, command of my own ship. And I intend to use that honor to do what this academy did for me, to find the talented individuals who have been overlooked, who have been counted out, who have been told that they do not belong. I will give them chances. I will push them and challenge them and believe in them, and together, we will protect the Human Federation and ensure that opportunity is available to everyone, not just those born to privilege." She stepped back from the podium, her speech finished. The audience rose to their feet, applauding. As Maya looked out at the standing ovation, She thought about the scared, hungry girl she had once been. The girl who had stolen bread to survive and run through the rain to escape. That girl had been transformed by a simple mistake, a door left unlocked on a stormy night. But the transformation had been her own doing. Every choice, every sacrifice, every moment of determination had been hers. The academy had given her the opportunity. She had seized it. Captain Maya Chen, the girl who snuck in by mistake, had become exactly what the academy had always needed, a true prodigy. And her journey was only beginning. That evening, after the ceremony was over and the guests had departed, Maya walked through the academy grounds alone. She found herself standing in front of the door where her adventure had begun. The small entrance to the dormitory building that she had slipped through on that rainy night so many years ago. The door was locked now, properly secured. No desperate street thief would stumble through it by accident. But Maya touched the metal frame gently, remembering. "Thank you," she whispered to no one in particular. To the universe, maybe. To whatever force of chance or fate had led her here. Then she turned and walked toward her future. Her ship was waiting. New challenges, new adventures, new opportunities to prove that humanity's greatest strength was its ability to find potential in the most unlikely places. Captain Maya Chen, the prodigy who should not have existed, was ready for whatever came next. The stars were calling, and she intended to answer.